Hey, I just want to thank everyone that's watching right now for joining us. We're excited to do Mancave Classified episode number 16, the transmission.
Yes, sir.
If you think that we're talking about that little device that goes behind the engine in the middle of the car to run the wheels, we are not.
We
We're
are
talking.
not.
We are not. We're talking about a very, very controversial subject matter, and quite frankly, I'm ready to face it from a standpoint of just a man looking at what's happening to society, what's happening to little girls with full-grown men in the bathrooms who identify as whatever they want to identify as, and those are subject matters I'm really tired of hearing about, and I want to put 2 cents forward to what's going on to the structure of the family, to the communities in general, to our nation, and for what, less than 1% of a population. It's absolutely retarded. So Carmel, you have the floor.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, because this is with us both having daughters, and having been an athlete myself, and my daughters are also athletes. When this whole thing became an issue, um, it bothered me tremendously. Not because, again, and let's start the whole conversation off with this. It's not about anyone's rights being infringed upon. I'm all for anyone who wants to consider themselves something else having the right to compete. Where they compete is the issue, because we're now putting women who have fought to get to this place in sports to have a seat at the table and to have
To dead last,
to dead last. So now
right?
you're saying a guy who is probably not good enough to compete as a male saying, you know what, I'm going to identify as a female, get a scholarship, and win a Division One title like Thomas did in 2022. Yeah, 2 years ago. That guy was like not even an average swimmer in the male side. Flips to the female side, wins the NCAA title.
I don't know if we should be talking names, so you're going to hear me not talking in names and just generalities. Do you remember when we'll say McEnroe, because he's a feisty old guy and tennis star of his own right, and man, could that guy put on a show. I used to just love to watch him as a kid, not because I liked tennis, because I liked the tantrums, and I liked watching him bust out yelling and cussing and breaking rackets continually. And that's him. He got on a show several years ago, and he basically said that and I could say her name, Serena, would not even have a seat at the table against a man in the professional level. And he said she'd be something like 700 something. And it really offended all the talk shows. And they all sat down for the next whatever amount of time. And he ended up having to come back. And I'm not sure if he placated to the whole subject matter or not. But the fact remains, when those gentlemen themselves, those same reporters, went to Serena and asked him how she felt, Serena said, "Yeah, he's right." He said, "There is no way I can beat a man with his power, with his, da 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 da." So, what is the issue that they need to prove women are equal to men? What is that? Why is that? Why is it on the table? And let me give you a story real quick, just so
Mm-hmm.
people can get their ideas wrapped around really what's going on. I have a friend who was in the Navy, and this is 20 years ago. And he had to design a course that would allow for women in the Navy to pass this course and to be a certain level of a medic. And the strongest of women on the ship could not do one of the exercises necessarily, like pick up a woman your own same size and or pick up a man and carry them across the ship to another place. Because you're a medic, you want to be a part of a team that requires strength, requires agility. They had to reconstruct the event. The ship captain told my friend, "Look, I don't care what you got to do, we got to get him to pass." And they ended up degrading the exercise to a point where it was so easy that they were able to pass, and now they were able to be a medic. And here's the sad thing is it's not about whether they're strong or not. They have strengths that we don't. It's not about whether they are equal to us, because in God's eyes that's a full on consideration. But when it comes to, you know, they have this thing in their life like, hey, you want us to open the doors for you. You want us to, and this is a whole nother subject matter. You want us to do all these things for you, but you don't want to make us a sandwich. Remember that one guy on the transgender show? What, I forget the name of that show. But he saw, wait. And all the women in the audience were like, hey, well, hold on a sec. You know, they were all mad at him. What was, yeah. And he's all, well, wait a minute. You know, a guy walks up to you, gives you some lip. You want me to smack him, right? And he's like, she's like, yeah. And he's all, okay. And he's they come up and submit the bill at the table. You want me to say we're going Dutch? So no, you're going to pay. Okay. You need me to open the door for you? Want me to open the door? Okay, I'm going to open the door. Well, then make me a sandwich. And it was insulting to the audience and to everybody. But there's these objective, you know, things.
Anthony Mack is the guy's name. That's right.
Yeah,
Anthony, yeah.
And so, Carmel, it's like, and that's really not the subject matter here, but what is the purpose of a transgender man competing in women's sports, knowing fully he's a cheater? There's no other word for it. He's a cheater.
I think the reason why it's coming up the way you said it, and because I feel like the powers that be, we're not going to say who that is trying to convolute that issue with female male equality, equal pay, and all that good stuff with this same topic when they're not the same. Because if I can get you confused about all of it, then I can subversively bring in that whole agenda and incorporate into like, oh yeah, it's all equal. We should all have a right to do whatever. It's not the same. It's not the same, because the whole conversation with like the WNBA right now, and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, who created a big, stir with their gameplay and their rivalry. It was great for women's sports and the NCAA side. And now people are saying, well, wow, we're watching these girls play and they're really good. Why don't they make as much as LeBron and Kobe and Steph Curry? And it's like that. That's because it's
negating the obvious. Negating the obvious.
Right. We're not. That's not even the question. How many people go to a WNBA game? It's not even close, right? But now what they're doing is, well, you see a lot of this on Twitter where they show Caitlin Clark shooting the lights out. You mean to tell me she couldn't play with the men? She couldn't hang with Steph Curry? And like, no,
not even for a second. Close. And not to shame them, not to shame them.
But the thing is, we keep
not even for a second.
Not even for a second. And people keep putting it on their Twitter, and I'm like, who is even posting this stuff? Because like real basketball heads would never say these things. So what's going to happen is you start seeing this talk about how because she couldn't play with the men, and then it would be like, well, how come this transgender couldn't play with women? Right? We all should have an opportunity. Then it's going to be completely negated. These lines that shouldn't have been crossed. This has nothing to do with the two. Allowing transgender women to come in and play in the WNBA and get scholarships and just completely just destroy all these young girls who had hopes of being the next Caitlin Clark and the next Angel Reese, because now this guy who couldn't make his varsity team in high school is now starting for North Carolina's women's team. And again,
you know what's sad? You know what's sad is the feminist movement is for a male dressed like a woman. The feminist movement is supporting those gender identity roles, but I don't know how far they're going when it comes to sports. But I'm watching the arguments out there, and it's blowing my mind that here we are, a trans man who is identifying as a woman is playing whatever sport he wants and going. Here's the big issue, that blonde who was in the swimming with that gentleman who won all the competitions. He would go in there and stare at these girls, according to the girls, while they were changing. Now, think about this for a second. Your daughter, she's 18, 19, 20 years old. and she's competing at a college level, event, and she's got a guy, a full grown ass male with a package in that bathroom with them, staring at them. What's wrong with this picture? And then when you say something about it and you're asking for them to be removed, or the school is pro this, but here's the point. That blonde is winning all the lawsuits. And now they're reversing all of the decisions. Now they're reversing everything. And she's now a multimillionaire. I mean, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing for her.
No.
But ultimately, they're going to come down the road again and push this same agenda again. Here's the thing that upsets me is the parents that are obviously gay or obviously trans that are pushing their children to this movement. Now, look, Carmel, you didn't know I had this lined up because I was going to do a show on this. And it's funny that you say this.
No coincidences, right?
No coincidences. Here's some stats. Stars that are currently raising trans children. There are currently an estimated 63,000 actors in the United States. If you multiply that number of actors times 0.0041, or about 0.04%, it's an estimated percentage of the English-speaking persons who are famous. And you can conclude that there's under 100 major famous actors. Okay. Now, that's a tough number to believe because you see thousands of movies and you see thousands of actors. We're talking uber famous actors, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to just throw some names out there. Jamie Lee Curtis. Son became a daughter. Dwayne Wade and Gabriel Union have shared a daughter, Zaya, that is trans.
Yeah.
Cynthia Nixon, Sex and the City. So proud of her son, Samuel. I don't want to say the names. Called Seth now. Dean McDermott, Tori Spelling have a 15-year-old boy.
Oh, wow.
Dre Kelly, Jaw Kelly, opened up Paper Magazine about gender society. His mother, Dre Kelly, praised her trans son. Now, these are major. Magic Johnson, who came out, his son came out gay in 2013, is now a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Megan Fox, with her son Noah, was spotted in a dress at the age of 5. Megan Fox spoke about supporting them as they are, saying, when I become pregnant with Noah, I could feel through my mother intuition, I suppose, that he was not subscribing to the gender or stereotypes. So I decided to provide an environment for him as early that would allow for him to discover how he wanted to express himself. Talk about stars steering. Now, just hang on, dude. I haven't even gotten my lips wet yet on this. Charlize Theron revealed that one of her children had come out to her as trans when he was just 3 years old. Hey, Mom, I'm a girl. I know I got a pecker, but I'm a girl. Can you support that? And Charlize did not hesitate to believe him.
Yeah.
When he had said this to her mom. Yeah. Ali Sheedy from The Breakfast Club also happens to be the proud mom of a trans son. Now I'm trying to avoid the children's names. Annette Bening and Warren Beatty, Uber, now has a trans son. R. Kelly, Dre Kelly. I'm just going to go on. I'm not going to read the bios. Cindy Barship from Real Housewives. Sade. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. What's that?
Sade has a trans kid too? Yeah.
Sade Isaac came out as trans for the first time in an Instagram post, sharing his son's followers on his then private account that he would be transitioning, starting with hormone therapy. Yes. Marlon Wayans, his transgender son, and this is going to hit home, named Kai.
No way.
Yeah. Brian Austin Green, Alexis Bellino, Barbara Streisand, Sigourney Weaver, Cynthia Bailey's daughter, Noelle, Little Nas X, Jennifer Lopez, Naomi Watts, Liev Schreiber. Just trying to skip some of the names you maybe not know. Billy Ray Cyrus.
As a trans kid? Wow.
Alec Baldwin, Marie Osmond, Cher, Isaiah Thomas, Lynn Kendall, Trudy Silver, Sally Field, Cindy Bishop. There's a bunch I'm not even saying. I'm just trying to skip through. Listen, Carmel. Now, I don't believe there's 100 actors or 50 actors or whatever. I think there's a lot more. But the bottom line is the level of famous actors. And I didn't even find them all. I didn't even touch them all. And we didn't even touch how many of them were themselves LGBTQPILMNDO. And or whether their sons or daughters have identified as those whatever. And so we're just talking about a movement that is supported, and there's a rumor mill about Kobe didn't want to do it with his own kids, and some of the responses were what we have with Kobe. But the rumor mill is that this isn't just, and this is pretty obvious, but when you have total control of the media and you have total control of Hollywood, you have an issue in that these people are pushing their children towards that before they even get an opportunity to self-identify. And this is the one thing that pisses me off more than anything. Do you know how painful hormone therapy is?
Oh, I could imagine. I've heard.
How those blockers work. They're subjecting their children who are under the age of 13 years old to voluntary treatments that are the most excruciating treatments possible. And it's not a straight mom with a married husband. It's a gay mom who's pushing her child to do the same thing and go beyond.
Yeah.
And those are the typical things that you're seeing. They're either famous, they're sold out to the devil, and they've got a push behind them that you're going to push your kid this way, or you're not going to get any acting roles, or you're going to get publicly shamed, or we're going to out you for what you did to these kids back in the day when you're at that party. Remember that time? That's what's going on. And now they're trying to mainstream it and make it acceptable for a grown ass guy to go into the bathroom with your young daughter. And I'm going to tell you, Carmel, I don't know what I would do if I saw a man go into the women's restroom. I think I would absolutely try to get in there within a second or two of him, so I can grab him by the back of his clothes before he gets too far in. But even then, now I'm in trouble for going in the women's restroom because I'm not identifying as a woman. I was in.
For a second.
Yeah, I was in what is the name of that mall? South Coast Mall. And I was in a restaurant at the end of the mall. Starts with an A. I'm forgetting the name. And bro, there is no men's restroom. It's a women's restroom, and it's a men and women's restroom.
I've seen that.
I haven't. That was news. Mm-hmm. So I walk in there and I'm peeing, and every time the door opened, I'm like, all right, get ready. It's showtime. Yeah. Whatever, but I'm very uncomfortable with all this, and it's I'm not getting used to this, but I'm surprised, and I only put like maybe an hour of work into that list that I just sent to you. I don't even think I touched the surface with Hollywood.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the celebrities you mentioned, and I've seen this, and I've wondered about this a lot, and it's tangential to this, is a lot of these celebrities who adopt kids are adopting Black boys and turning them trans. over and over and over again. First of all, I'm like, why are we adopting black kids to begin with? Go adopt a white kid. Secondly, why are so many of them? I think even back when like Madonna, I know Charlize Theron, I want to say Tomb Raider chick, what's her name?
Angelina Jolie.
Same thing. Her kids, trans, black. I'm like, what? Why are we adopting so many black boys and turning them into girls? Like, what is this?
That might be another subject matter we get into. Do you have a problem with me adopting a black kid?
I mean, in and of itself, no. But it's like, why? If it was just a one-off,
I would at least be teaching them their true heritage.
100%. You doing it is different. No problem at all. But in general, just why are so many white celebrities adopting black kids?
Pretty obvious, you know. It's they want the notoriety, they want the fame, and they think that's well. In the same accord, you know, Angelina Jolie's got a table in front of her last year, and she's eating bugs for the UN, promoting the pushing of eating bugs, and that's what she had to do as a celebrity to keep her position. And she's going to insect to insect to insect and putting them in her mouth and eating them. And I'm like, this is multi-hundred-millionaire star eating bugs in front of cameras to promote an agenda because they got some dark horses over her. Long story short, I went and did a study as deep as I could go on her past, and she went through MK Ultra programming at its finest when she was brand new, and she was explaining on camera how they would use sex and use instruments were very painful, hot wax on her chest and different things to promote certain things within her. And what they basically did is reprogrammed her brain through weeks upon weeks of these elements of training, retraining her mind to do whatever so they can control her. And then they created movies about this, you know, Salt and different things like, you know, I had a friend visit an MK Ultra convention 20 years ago. And the guy at the front says, I'm about to say a word, and about half of you in the audience are going to leave and try to make a phone call. And he said it, and the whole audience got up and true. And so I know, right? And so programming is one. The social construct of them being pushed into it to keep their fame, to keep their whatever. But there's people out there that aren't famous. Like, what is, as a kid, it's TikTok brain, IG, you know, all these things that have kids disrespecting their parents, kids thinking there's something they're not because they have been told something. And, you know, it's what happens is in every culture that's about to collapse, or every country, let me say it that way, country that is about to collapse, this is the final induction into that society to help people to not realize who they are as a human being, weakening the softening of men, taking away their desire to fight, making them gay, homosexual, soft, placating, no manly men anywhere, placating to every element of a woman's needs, desires, this, that, and the other. I just saw this video the other day of a guy doing the same thing girls are doing, and on their YouTube accounts and on their IG accounts, describing, you know, what they expect from a man.
Okay.
And this guy flipped the narrative, and he did the same thing as the guy's first, you know, you will pick me up, and I will not drive. And you will hold my door open for me, and I will not pay for dinner. And if you think you're going to get something, you better be ready to pay for it, because I'm worth something. I'm worth a lot. And this is a guy saying this into a camera. You know, it's like, Carmel, our kids are.
Why does that sound so crazy?
I know. But that's girls right now all over the place saying what they are expecting. You know, and here's all these. I'm watching the show whatever, the podcast
Yeah.
whatever, and they come up with some really good points. There's a couple of guys on there that are turd balls. Good points, turd balls. Don't have respect. Don't know how to engage in a conversation that ends up with any help, and pretends to be a believer, and knowing the word and knowing the Bible, but they're always inviting a stage full of OnlyFans
Yeah.
to their show. And that's a whole nother dialogue as to what those girls are expecting out of a man. Like, they're like, you think you'll be able to settle down with one man? And she's all, sure, absolutely. I'm conservative in nature. And the guy's like telling her, you're a whore. You're not conservative in nature. What about you as conservative? You know, and they're putting these girls down, and understandably, they're just there trying to get their OnlyFans accounts up. But these girls have been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars by men who just want to come and drop money off at their door so they can be treated like crap by these girls.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully maybe one day get invited in for some favor or sexual act.
Yeah. It's interesting how there's the two sides of this, where we're so the degradation of women, where OnlyFans is now considered a viable option to women, even women who most would say of, like, you know, a reputation that's, like, you know, upstanding. For example, one of the, I can't remember her name. She's an actress from she was on Sopranos, and attractive woman, and she was down a bit, you know, wasn't acting, wasn't making any money. Went to OnlyFans for about 5 days, paid off her house. And she talks about it openly. And she said, I didn't get fully naked, but I went on there because people said I would make some money. She made enough to pay off her house. And people are saying, good for you, girl. Empowerment. Do what you got to do. You owned it. Da 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 da. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, right.
We're celebrating that? Now,
Yeah.
this other side of that is, who's giving her the money, right? It's obviously now that male that's been pushed from being a man, pushed from being able to go and speak to a woman and look for a woman of reputation. So now he's at the house, stuck, trapped, didn't have the ability to speak, but I can push $5, $10 to this woman in hopes of having some kind of interaction with her, which you're really not, but it's enough to make you feel like you are. And she made enough to pay for her house. That is crazy.
I don't even know what
bananas.
You know, these women are making literally hundreds of thousands a month. Some of them, the average is, according to that show, the average is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 20, 30 a month. But even that, for the little work that they have to do, and it's forever. And some of them are saying, you know, I don't do any sex work on it. I only do da 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 da. I'm like, what do you? Because and Carmel, I'm not full of crap. I've never been to OnlyFans. I've never seen it. I've never explored it. I don't know what it looks like.
I was in a meeting not too long ago, and the OnlyFans joke came up, and I didn't get the reference because I've never been on the site. I'm like, I don't get. You've never been on OnlyFans? I said, I've never, not one time. Like, originally, OnlyFans was supposed to be no different than Patreon, where your true followers could pay for, you know, exclusive content. Somehow or another, OnlyFans became, you know, a basically paid adult site. But yeah, I've never been on it. I cannot fathom why a guy would get on there and pay for a woman's salary just to see her feet. Watch her
that's
sleep.
one of the things that I learned through the that show. Shout out to whatever podcast, and I have to say it's literally the name, whatever podcast. Because those guys, you know, have these girls on, and some of them, their entire OnlyFans account is about their feet. You know, and some of them it's body parts. Some of them, I mean, whatever fetish that is. I don't look at women's feet as anything exciting, but I guess it does something for some guys out there. But and they're making a lot of money. So, you know, kudos to them. I mean, feet's not, you're not selling anything with that. I don't necessarily find right, wrong, or indifferent, but, you know, getting back to that whole trans topic, you know, we're degrading women by not protecting them. And women are looking at our desire to protect them as an insult because they think they can take care of themselves. Not all women. And this isn't the put down to a general race of women. But we're at a time in which women don't need to be protected because we have law enforcement. For the most part, they don't need to be protected. Whereas before, historically, women needed to have the shelter of a strong community, for sure, strong man, a strong house, and a guy who would be willing to go to war with his sword and battle till the death to protect his wife. Sorry. But that's not needed anymore. So all of a sudden, the patriarch is gone.
Yeah.
And the need for leadership in a home is gone because that's what TikTok says. That's what IG says. I went into this movie as a cartoon. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it. Excuse me, Carmel. And I was blown away within the first 5 minutes of the movie. It was a kid screaming at his dad. His dad was simply trying to take him on a lifetime achievement trip, you know, to go and explore with his dad. And he said, "I hate you, Dad," this, that. And he turned around and walked away and never saw his dad again. And within 10 more minutes of that, his best friend was gay. And his best friend had a crush on another guy. And when him and his best friend were in the backseat of the car, he's like, "I remember when I had my first crush," and it was all accepting. You know what? There was only two other people in that movie theater. We all got up and walked out right then. It was like we were ashamed to even be in that movie theater because they really were programming children to these things. And you got to really think about this. Like Patrick Bet David, is that his name? He does the best.
Yes.
He does the best job explaining to people how steering a child towards an environment like homosexuality or trans and not giving that child the opportunity to grow up naturally, make his own choices, that there are people that are actually literally steering their child. And what's happening is those children are being steered by now elementary schools. We've got gay pride flags. I want to rip them down. I'm sorry, guys. You know, if you're gay and you're offended by this, you're unfortunately growing your population by force. You're not growing your population naturally. And you do not represent, nor do you have an opinion in a public school, as you shouldn't. Just like I shouldn't have an opinion about my Christian values and beliefs in a public school. If somebody wants to entertain my right to sit down and talk to you about something, great. But for you to put a flag up in a classroom or sorry, Carmel, Black Lives Matter flag up in a classroom, I object to that.
Yeah, see, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and I got on this with people back when it was going around, was not an agenda or a push started by Black people.
George Soros.
Thank you. There was no Black leader of that agenda. There was no organization by Black people at all. None of that was us. But because we hear the Black part of it, and because of the event that happened, I'm not going to say tragedy or whatever, the event that happened, we feel forced to get behind it. But after a while, I was like, what are we really pushing? Because I don't remember being this a thing we ever had at our Black coalition meetings that we have every Tuesday down in Inglewood, which doesn't really happen. It's a joke. But I'm saying we did make this.
I'm like, dang, Carmel.
I'm like, we didn't start this, but then it became a thing. And then what happened is that became divisive. The Black Lives Matter started going up against the Blue Lives Matter, and the Blue Lives Matter and the Pink Lives Matter. Then all of a sudden, there's all these blank lives matter going against Black Lives Matter. I'm like, we never even said this. Never was a thing. So again, it's like, why do these issues and agendas keep popping up? Throwing it behind the people it has nothing to do with, and then all the real matters that we want to discuss get blurred. They all get swashed in the mix, and then we forget what really the thing we were trying to get after. The whole George Floyd thing, again, is another topic for another discussion for another day. But yeah, I don't want that flag. I don't want that banner. I don't want that hashtag. So why is it okay if like the LGBTQIA plus gets to fly their flag, gets to banner everything, gets to shove it down everyone's throat, but then the people who don't want those things I can't opt out, I can't say no, I can't reject it, and I'm not rejecting you. I'm just saying that's not for me. I think another problem is our society, and this is just people in general. People take my unsupport as being against something. I don't have to. My not supporting something doesn't mean I'm against it. It just means I'm not supporting it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, Carmel. I'm like, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like, okay, and there's so many more things that are jumping through my mind as you're saying all these things, and we're kind of off topic, but the reality is they're all one. And it's a nation that's being divided, by sex, by gender, as if they're not one, and by Carmel. What is the difference of me asking you to identify me as a stud muffin and you asking me to identify you as he, she, they, whatever? You know what I mean? What is, and that's the problem that Jordan Peterson is having up in Canada, is they're forcing him to observe and say what is not grammatically correct, what is not institutionally known as sane. You know, these subjects that we're dealing with right now, like furries, that is somebody that 20 years ago would be institutionalized.
Right.
Somebody that's a transgender 20 years ago would have been institutionalized potentially. Not saying that they were crazy, but they're at least looking at them as that being a disorder.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, it is a disorder. It's a perversion, you know, and that's that, and it's at a level now where it's making everybody else uncomfortable. Now,
what's the difference between me identifying the Earth as flat? That causes mass hysteria if you tell someone I'm a flat Earth.
Millions of people supporting you, Carmel, and there's a ton of flight paths that are explained through a flat earth theory. And I am not making that a public statement, but it's a weird position, but there's a lot of things that make sense through it, but I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong.
Right. And that's the place I would just like to be, is I'm not saying you're right or wrong, and I'm not telling you to take my opinion about it, but why do I need to have yours? Like, for example, the term cisgender.
Right.
Do you know what cisgender means?
Yeah.
Since when? When did all of a sudden
I'm just saying that's what they want us to call ourselves is cisgender.
Wait a minute. Don't be giving me terms, because every time when I first started hearing
you're a cisgender. No, I'm not a cisgender. What is that? I'm XY. I'm a man, you know. And I don't know if you've realized that, and you need to look at me twice, but it's pretty apparent that I'm wearing a AR-15 black shirt, and I don't pass by the gym without walking in it. You know, it's called man. If somebody's going to come after my lady, I'm going to deal with that on the spot. Right. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
Bottom line is that should be the norm. What?
That don't sound cisgender to me.
Well, and let's look at the future. What's going to happen when they take society down? What's going to happen when they change the plan is to crash the United States economy, and they're doing it successfully. They're moving it towards digital currency platform, and they're going to make this nation go dark for 1 day, 10 days, whatever, to put you at your knees, just like they did in 1929, to where you would get to a point 4 years later to what's known as today is called the New Deal. and where people were living with nothing on the inner cities. And unfortunately, people didn't know that the outer cities, where 75% of the population lived at that time, they're eating comfortably. They were farmers. They were sharing their crops with other people. But today it's different. They are blowing up all the food plants right now. They are blowing up, and I mean blowing up. You need to do your own research. You need to look this up. They're bringing about a food shortage. They're bringing about a world to which we're going to be fighting. People are going to be fighting one another, and community and a man is what that woman is going to get behind. It's not going to be a trans man. It's not going to be a gay man. I'm not saying gay men are not tough, but for the most part, I'd much rather go to a battle with a regular guy not battling sexuality and or his appearance than a regular guy who's been trained by the United States military and the armed forces. I'd rather go to battle with a man who knows who he is and is comfortable with who he is, and preferably a SEAL or a ranger or somebody who, you know, can handle 50 people. And you know what? Every woman out there saying that that is uncomfortable for them, or that's something they're living in a comfortable society for the most part right now, and it's about to get extremely uncomfortable. And you're going to wish your opinion of trans men and gay men, and you're going to wish you didn't make it so public. You're going to wish you didn't steer your kids down that direction, that road. You're going to wish you had a real man by your side. And that's a whole nother topic, how lonely women are getting because they've subjected themselves to thinking they're better than they really are. They're more important than they really are. They're holding out for a 9 or a 10 just because they screwed a couple last year, and they think that they can get that guy for, bed that guy forever. And this isn't. We're not putting women down here, and I'm not putting homosexuals down. No. As a matter of fact, a couple of my friends came out as gay and were still gay to this day. And one of them passed. But I don't have any problem with a gay man. It's not it. I have a problem with people pushing their agenda to the point to which it's affecting the people around them.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to talk about Christianity, I'm going to lay it softly for somebody, my beliefs, and they're going to shoot me down. I'm going to say, cool. Go to hell. I don't care. I'm just kidding. I do care. But the point is I'm not going to keep pushing and pushing. I'm going to lead them by my own example.
100%.
I'm going to do whatever I can to sway them to a direction that I want to sway them to. But I'm not going to make it the law. I'm not going to change their identity. I'm not going to force them to call me a gay, sexy man because that's my pronoun that I desire to be called that day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to respect them, and they're going to respect me, and we're going to live side by side as friends. And that's what's happened with my friendships in those types of communities, and we've respected one another. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't have been able to tell one of these guys was gay. And unfortunately, he died of staph infection. He was one of my best friends.
And that's interesting because I've probably had one coworker in my entire, years of working that became a friend who I found out was gay after working with him for 2 or 3 years. Talked sports, very cool cat. And then he invited some of the, guys at the office to come hang out at his house. We're going to watch a game or do something. And then he mentioned that his partner made cookies. And he said, yeah, Jeff made some cookies. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I looked around. I'm like, Jeff? See? And then, yeah, you didn't know Mike's gay? I'm like, no. Didn't change anything about how I felt about the guy. I just now knew that he was gay and homosexual. But he was still cool. Nothing changed. And I want to say it's probably about 10 to 15 years ago. That guy, I feel like, is not the person who's behind all this gross change in policy. Because that dude seemed very comfortable in just being gay, but didn't force a thing on anybody. So the thing as you just said, is bugging me is why is this affecting so much policy? These people can just be gay and just live their life. like maybe getting married and all that stuff and having like benefits. Okay, cool, whatever. But everything else now, there's so much change for a percentage of our population that's less than 4, maybe 5%, maybe less than that. Why is there so much gross policy change because of this group of people? And again, I don't think it's them. I shouldn't say that. I know there are people who are pushing in the agenda that are gay, but the people, like I said, the guy you know and the person I experienced didn't know it till like 3-4 years down the road in our relationship. They weren't always pushing it and talking about it. And, oh, I should get this. This should happen. We should get this. And like, or like having their rights somehow or another attached to black rights and civil rights. I'm like, wait.
Why are trans men standing on the curb saying we're coming after your children? Why are they holding signs like that?
Yeah.
You know what? Those aren't just fighting words. Those are very threatening words, because my child doesn't know who he is yet, or doesn't know who she is yet, and I'm just raising them, and might be a single dad, I might not, I might be a couple, a family, and I want to raise my children my way, and I don't need to raise a child in a way that is what my belief is as a perverse position. And this isn't to, I'm sure there's some funny guys out there that are from the trans community that keep it very real, have maybe a single relationship with another trans man or trans woman, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's not up to me to tell them how to live their life. It's not up to them to tell my kids or me how to live, or what to say to them, or how to say it. It's up to me to be a concerned individual and be as nice as possible, but I do not need to placate to your pronouns. I do not need to placate to or agree to your lifestyle of living. And you're less than 1%. And the numbers are far less than that of the entire population. Why do you get a platform? And Christianity or even Satan worship doesn't. And it's both ends. If you, and unfortunately, it's you get a right on both ends in this nation to have a platform. I don't agree with satanic worship. I don't agree with allowing them to have a platform. But if somebody's willing to listen to it, guess what? That's between them and their God. And it has nothing to do with me. But the fact remains, in this nation, we do have a freedom of right to speak on any subject matter, and they're using that, but they're saying they're coming after our kids. They're saying they're going to use any restroom they want. And if you're going to try, and I've watched these videos of men dressed up like women, and if you think for 1 second you're going to be stopping me from going into the women's restroom, go ahead and try. Go ahead, and I dare you, try to stop me. I will stab you so many times. I will kill you. I've seen those videos.
Where are they getting that audacity? Where are they getting that boldness from? They're being emboldened by the policy that's changed. They're being emboldened by people in power who are forcing this change. And it's really strange to me that a kid could be 5, 6 years old and have the power to say what their gender is, but you need to be 26 to rent a car. Why? There's hundreds of studies that speak to the fact that
the hit a major thing, or 18 to vote, but 21 to have a beer. There's some stupid policies. I don't think there should be an age on alcohol, because then nobody would want to drink it. But you put an age on alcohol, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to be 21 in a minute. Here we go, baby.
Exactly.
It's unfortunate, but and it's the same thing in the drug culture. Unfortunately, there's wins with legalizing marijuana, and there's complete losses, as they say it's conclusive in some people's minds that it's a gateway drug, which is a totally different conversation. But Carmel, I'm at this point where I'm watching society completely break down, and when we're dealing with the transmission. I'm not talking auto parts here. And their desire to come after our girls, molest them in girls' bathrooms. That seems to be what's happening. And trans men are going to be like, oh, that's not our heart. That's not, well, then you might want to get that crazy that's at the front of your line wearing underwear, holding a sign and humping the air. We're coming after your kids. You might want to get that guy off your block.
Right.
You know, out of the front of your parades.
Yeah.
Because those parades are at a point where they're disgusting, they're sinful, in my opinion, and they're in a nature that is absolutely harming our society in a way that we've never really thought this all the way through, allowing this to happen. But for the people listening, this is the very thing that they introduce into every society right before the society falls. Right here. What you're watching is make men soft so we can come in and raid their nation. And people go, oh, instead of make men hard. Do you know what Chinese kids go through? And I'm not saying China's raising a good set of, you know, they got good a foundation for freedom for their children or their families. But I'm watching what these kids are. They're the Middle East, China. They're all getting ready for war, and we've had nothing but people that were of military age, men, come across our border, and the number is more like 22 million. 22 million. Now, it only takes a couple million. It doesn't take 22. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen in this nation in the next several years is going to be so profound. I don't, and all you guys with your eyes focused on the blonde Trump, and that's all that's going to, you're waiting on, and you're not doing anything about correcting what's going on in your own nation. You're not, you know, we're doing these podcasts because we want to show people that there is an actual opinion about America. I don't like the term MAGA, but I do like the element of making America great again. But the term MAGA is a satanic term. I won't get into that with you. The name should not offend people. The flag should not offend people. Okay. It is not a hateful flag. America is the most freedom-oriented nation on the face of this earth, giving people the right. And all those people, and one of the things I laugh when I see the gay culture holding Palestinian flags. It makes me laugh. It absolutely busts me up, because if you go to Palestine and you profess your homosexuality, you are dead. Yeah. You are dead. In this nation, the most freeing nation in the world, at least you can do that. You can express your beliefs and whatever, but it's unfortunate we're at where we're at. Listen, brother, I don't want to talk about trans men forever, because, you know, it's making me butter up all over the place.
But my last question about trans men is, when do they stop transing? The whole trans community, the word trans is the, you know, prefix to transition, to move towards something. Why is it a whole community of people still being trans?
You mean in the middle of a transition?
Right. Right.
And then what they're fighting for is to say that, you know, as that man, I mean, you got to admit, Carmel, what does it take to go from this to a woman? You got to admit that is quite a feat. You know, the hormone blockers, the hormones, the shaving, the surgeries, the weight loss. I could not eat.
If I've got to take hormones, if I got to cut myself, if I got to inject and rearrange things,
you're not a man.
You're not a man.
You're not a man. Meaning
you're not a woman. You're not. If you got to shift yourself from one to the other, so let me also go back to this. There's probably a very, very, very small percentage of the population that when I see a certain girl or a man, I could say, okay. You've seen a guy, you're like, yes. Or you grew up with someone that was kind of very feminine, maybe a girl who looked very masculine, and could understand if they said, I feel more like a boy than I do a girl. I could probably count, you know, on one side of my hand, having seen that person. And now we're having a whole generation of people saying this, but then you got to take all these drugs and do all this surgery to make it happen.
Well, if you think about what you just said, even those people, you have to look at their upbringing and the genetically modified foods that they're eating. You got
Oh
to
yeah,
look
we can spend all day on that, bro.
I know, and that's what I'm
Yes,
trying to
sir.
say is you might be dealing with that, and that alone is the
Oh, for
source
sure,
of why most people are feeling the way that they're feeling.
no doubt.
And so we're the only nation in the world that's doing that. And we're the only nation in the world being torn apart from within like we are. And I'm saddened because I don't know what to do. I'm just growing my own food in the backyard. I've eaten a lot of my own food in the last week. And for the first time, really, we have fruit that's budding. We're going to get a can this year. And I got eggs every single day coming out of fresh chickens. And, I'm trying to live that life off the genetically modified stuff that we're being fed. And even though it's being pulled from my backyard, even though I fed it organically, I'm running it through an O3 generator just to kill all the negative particulates off of it before we consume it, to clean it. And that's a whole nother conversation as to why we are what we are. And it's basically you are what you eat. So who knows what we've been eating for, in that McDonald's. Did you ever hear the rumors that McDonald's I'm gonna leave that rumor off the table. Anyway,
Before we change the subject, do you remember probably 5 to 10 years ago they said to avoid polysaturated fats and stuff like that? Do you remember the fat they said was the worst fat? We should avoid it.
trans fat.
Trans fat. Is it a coincidence it's called trans fat? And it's showing up in everything?
There's a lot of coincidences, brother, or are they?
I don't think they are. They are not.
Is and one of the major reasons people are, getting soft is, in my opinion, and maybe people agree or don't agree, I don't really care. Meat. They want to literally take meat away from everybody and take it off the table. And you know what's going to happen when we have a bunch of vegans and soy lovers and, in this nation? I mean, they're going to be soft men, literally.
Literally.
And, literally, yeah. And I love me a good steak. I love eating lamb. I love eating, I stopped eating chicken for the most part. Every now and then I'll eat chicken because of certain things I've heard about. How chicken is prohibitive on letting you recover quickly, and you end up with a lot more pain and inflammation than you would normally without chicken. But nevertheless, I mean, what's going to happen when they're literally print screening meals and they look like real meat, and they're using stem cells from beef to grow and procure future meats for people, and people are eating these meats and they have no idea what the end result is going to be. Literally, the Jetsons have come forward.
Yep.
Like how would we know about the Jetsons? We need to, what we need to do? We need to do a show on the Simpsons.
Oh, sure.
We need to do a show on the Simpsons. We need to, because that show is the most highly forecasted future events that come true show on the internet. And I found out that one of the creators, if not the creator, used to work at the CIA. Did you know that?
Not surprised.
I know, right?
Not surprised.
And there's a lot of hidden things. Check this out. Marge was vacuuming on The Simpsons. I just saw this last night. She was vacuuming. She said, Alexa or whatever in the background was speaking, and then Marge says, no, I don't want that. I want 10 of this. And then Alexa said, you would like to order 1,000 shares of XLN, the letter N. And Marge says, no, and she said 1,000 shares or something. And Alexa says, confirmed, 1,000 shares XLN ordered. And then they show a receipt and it says XLM, which is a true coin.
Right.
And it says burgers. And then this guy on the video does gematria on XLM burgers and it says run on Ripple.
Wow.
And if anybody knows this, they know that the Simpsons have been promoting digital currency for 25 years and specifically talking about Ripple XRP. Get your buys in order. That's all I got to say. Hey, that's our next show, dude. Let's do something on the Simpsons. Hopefully we won't get kicked off YouTube for copyright infringement. I don't see how we could. Everybody else is doing it. So
yeah, but they're not talking about like we are. You know how it is.
Well, I don't know, man. I saw a show on Robin Williams hanging from a door on The Simpsons the night before he actually was found hanging from the door.
Yeah, man. The Simpsons is on something else. I mean, part of me used to think like it wasn't so much prophetic. Again, I always talk about, being scripted, but then some of his stuff is like, okay, it's too close. There's no way that could have came out. And sometimes the Simpsons show will have been like years before something happened, and then you're like, oh, there's no way they could have predicted that.
Trump presidency, Kobe dying from a helicopter crash.
Was that Simpsons or Futurama? The Kobe, I thought the Kobe one was another from the same camp of artists, but I thought it was maybe the Futurama.
Well, I could be wrong, but last I checked, it was Simpsons. Anyway, bro, we both are trying to hang in there in respect to how do we help people live their life, be comfortable, do what you're going to do, but just don't push it on us, and understand that we as a nation are being weakened by those communities, and we're not being strengthened, and there is no win in supporting that. There's no win in supporting child pedophilia, because that's where a lot of that goes, and they don't talk about that. Gay marriages that adopt two boys, and both the fathers are now indicted for child pedophilia, and come to find out had a history of it. But because they're gay and they're married now, they get an opportunity to adopt gay, boys, and they use that against their habitual things against, young children, which is one of the biggest things that hurts me to the bone or hurts me to the core is pedophilia. So, live and let live, Carmel. What do you suggest we do about this?
I mean, I've had a lot of discussions with people about trying to change, make change, bring change, but I've gotten to a point where like I'm honestly just going to take care of my own. Like, there's only so much you can do, in the government sense, in the political sense. So like, as the communities get smaller, I'm just going to hunker down, find places and things I can do to take care of me and my people. And let this, let the blankety blank hit the fan. What else can I do? Because honestly, we know if we really try to make this a thing and bring awareness to the masses, those in charge and in control will find a way to shut us down. Now, if we could, drip the information out slowly and carefully, I will continue to do that. But to try and change it, like, is it really possible?
Well, let me ask you this: Why is Andrew Tate so popular? Why does he have a platform that's so big on every single social media? Why is he being taken down over here and then gets arrested and gets released with no charges? But he's got the #1 pod show in the world all of a sudden.
Yeah.
We have to ask those questions. Are we being played on both sides? And if we are, we're screwed. And
100%.
I don't necessarily know if there's a way to clean this up other than a moral interjection, and that's a whole nother conversation that maybe we should have. Maybe prayer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hey, have you heard this movie coming out, or maybe it just came out, called Civil War? It's supposed to be like a dystopian
on our soil here. Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, we should watch that and do a review.
Is it out?
It came out I think last month.
Well, let's go to the movie theater and watch them. We'll record ourselves live.
Because I think that kind of stuff, like, again, to me, not necessarily prophetic, but it's script. It's telling people what to get ready for. So I'm really interested to see what's in this movie. Much like the movie that came on Netflix a couple months ago.
Yeah,
That the Obamas.
Yeah, what was interesting was all the Teslas crashing into one another.
Right.
The thing I didn't like about it was the pushing of black hate onto white folks. To be honest with you, I didn't like that at all.
Once again.
Very telling movie, though.
Yep.
And I'd have moved a little bit sooner if I saw a ship like that coming onto my shore, you know.
You're right.
I know, right?
Right.
All right, brother. Blessings, man. I hope to see you again soon, and appreciate your time. But any closing comments with how you feel about trans people?
I love them. I honestly do. It's their agenda that bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't talk to my kids.
Yeah, leave them alone.
All right, brother. See you, man. Have a good one.
Right. Be good.